In the summer of 2020, a man and his wife showed up to the parking lot of a mall near their home in Colorado, hoping to purchase a vehicle they found online. Little did they know that before the hour was up, they would be murdered, and it would take some detailed detective work to find their killer. Joe Roland was a 39-year-old man living in Aurora, Colorado with his wife Jocelyn, and together they had 5 kids, all under the ages of 19. Now, one of the ways Joe would make money for a living was by flipping cars. He would go around buying used cars, fix them up if they needed it, and then sell them for a profit. And this was the case in August of 2020 when he was browsing the app LETGO. At the time, LETGO was a website and a phone app that allowed people to buy and sell products locally, similar to Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. And one day, when Joe was scrolling through the app, he sees a blue 2017 Toyota RAV4 listed for $5,000 by a seller named James Worthy. Right away, Joe is interested, so he messages James Worthy through the app and tells him he's interested in the car. After texting back and forth through the LETGO app, they decide on a good time to meet up so Joe can check out the car. They arranged to meet on August 14th at the Southland Shopping Center, which was a popular shopping mall near where they lived, and they would be meeting around 11 p.m. at night. So the night of the 14th comes, and Joe asks his 17-year-old daughter if she wants to go with him to look at this Toyota RAV4. That way, if all looked well and he bought it on the spot, she would be there with him and they could drive both vehicles back to the house. But his daughter says no, she was spending time with her boyfriend that night and had to drive him home. So Joe asks his wife Jocelyn to accompany him, and she agrees. Joe and Jocelyn arrive at the mall a little after 11 p.m., and with them they bring this envelope with $5,000 that they're going to use to purchase the car. A few minutes later, the blue RAV4 pulls into the parking lot, and James Worthy, the man Joe had been communicating with, gets out and the men start talking. The car appears to be in good shape, but there's one problem. James Worthy forgot to bring the correct title for that vehicle, and without the title in Colorado, you can't legally sell a car. But James tells the couple, don't worry, just follow me back to my apartment, it's not too far away, I'll grab the correct title and we can complete this transaction. So James Worthy gets back in the RAV4, Joe and Jocelyn get back into their vehicle, and they follow him about 20 minutes away to his apartment complex. Once there, the RAV4 comes to a stop. Joe stops his car right behind it, and they're kind of just idling there for a few moments. Then, James gets out of the RAV4 and walks over to Joe at the driver's side of his car. Joe has his window down, kind of wondering what's going on. That's when James pulls out a pistol, points it at Joe, and demands the money inside the envelope, which is sitting in the center console of the car. At this point, Joe probably realizes that this wasn't a legitimate business deal and this man had planned on robbing them all along. Nonetheless, Joe sees this gun coming through his window, so he instinctively grabs James's arm, trying to redirect it somewhere else. And that's when James fires the gun 5 times, hitting Joe and Jocelyn. James quickly reaches over Joe, grabs the money from inside the envelope, runs back to his RAV4, and speeds off. After the gunshots were called in, paramedics raced to the scene. Joe Roland and his wife were rushed to the hospital, but sadly they would die, about 5 minutes apart. When police arrived at the crime scene, they had an overwhelming amount of evidence. They had witnesses who had heard the gunshots, they had a witness who saw a dark SUV leaving the scene, they had home surveillance that captured both cars on camera, and they had Joe's cell phone, which was inside his vehicle. Also inside his vehicle, police found 4 empty shell casings and a white Bank of America envelope with $5,000 written on it and $1,300 still inside, suggesting that whoever robbed Joe and Jocelyn didn't even take all of the money. There was much more to this story that was about to unfold, and it all started with one question: who was the person in the dark SUV? After speaking with family, police knew Joe and Jocelyn had left their house to meet an online seller about a RAV4. Police looked through Joe's phone, read the chat logs between him and James Worthy, and right there in the chat was a photo of the blue RAV4. So they knew one thing: we have to find this RAV4. And it was around this time, on August 15th, just a day after the shooting, that a car came rolling into the Aurora Police impound lot. Actually, it was getting pulled in by a tow truck. And what car was that? You guessed it, the 2017 blue RAV4. It had been found abandoned and lit on fire across town. However, the fire pretty much burned out right away and didn't do irreparable damage to the car, so it was pretty easy for police to identify that this was the RAV4 they were looking for. They ran a search on the vehicle's license plate and discovered that the car had been reported stolen in Denver on August 9th, 5 days prior to the shooting of Joe and Jocelyn. Now police were starting to get a clearer picture. The car was stolen, then days later it pops up for sale on the LETGO app. A couple goes to buy the car but are robbed at gunpoint and killed. But what police didn't know was who was the man responsible for posting the RAV4 on LETGO. Who was James Worthy? To solve that question, police began by looking deeper into James Worthy's account on LETGO. And what they found was that James Worthy only had one post on LETGO, which was the blue Toyota RAV4. He had never posted anything else for sale, nor had he ever purchased anything on LETGO. Also, he didn't have any reviews from other users on LETGO, so he clearly wasn't a very active user on the site. And as police are starting to dig into this guy's account and learn more, his account suddenly disappears from the site, meaning it was either deleted or deactivated. But as police are looking around the LETGO app, they suddenly come across something they cannot believe. Right there in front of them, for sale again, was the blue 2017 Toyota RAV4, freshly posted by a completely different user on LETGO, someone calling themselves Jessica Harlan. Police instantly recognized that the photos were the exact same photos that were posted just a week ago by James Worthy. Yep, the scammer was back online attempting to deceive a new victim. They didn't even have the car, because the car they were selling on the site was actually sitting in a police impound lot half burned. Well, police did not hesitate and immediately got a court order to obtain the user data for the LETGO account Jessica Harlan. And this is what they found out. The account for Jessica Harlan had no real name attached to it, no phone number, and a fake address, but it did have a real email address, a Gmail account. So, police contacted Google via their law enforcement portal and requested an emergency disclosure order for that Gmail account. Google obliged, and police finally learned the true identity of the person behind that email address, the same email address that was used for both the James Worthy and Jessica Harlan accounts on LETGO. The email was registered to an 18-year-old named Kyrie Brown. Along with his name, Google was also able to supply them with a phone number. This prompted police to contact Verizon Wireless and request that an emergency trace be installed on that cell phone. Verizon Wireless gladly cooperated, and police were able to track down 18-year-old Kyrie Brown through his cell phone, and on August 27th, nearly 2 weeks after the murder took place, he was arrested. Brown was brought into police headquarters and told police pretty much everything. That he and a friend stole the RAV4 from a neighborhood in Denver. He took photos of the vehicle and posted it for sale on the LETGO app. That's where he made contact with Joe Roland, met him and his wife at the Southlands Mall, told them he had accidentally brought the wrong vehicle title and had them follow him back to an apartment complex. That's when he pulled out his gun and ordered them to give him the money. But when Joe started grabbing at his arm, he decided to shoot Joe, but accidentally shot Jocelyn as well. He grabbed the money and fled the area in the RAV4. He drove to another location, poured gasoline all over the seats, and attempted to set it on fire. In 2022, nearly 2 years after the murders, Brown was convicted of 2 counts of first and second-degree murder, along with a long list of other charges. While justice was served, it did not change the fact that 5 children lost their parents. A longtime friend of the family did set up a GoFundMe page to collect money for Joe and Jocelyn's children, which raised over $250,000. Here's an update on this case, and if my video looks a little different, it's because this information I'm about to read you came out after I recorded the original video. On January 4th of 2023, Kyrie Brown was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Prosecutors argued just how vicious of a crime this was by sharing with the court a selfie that Brown took of himself with the money he stole from Joe and Jocelyn after murdering them. That's it for today's episode. If you find these scam videos interesting or helpful to you, be sure to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you can be alerted every time I post a new scam. Remember, hearing about it just may save you from falling for it. So, until next time, keep your eyes open for scams.